planters and succulent growers, I'm Lynn and welcome to Desert Plants of Avalon. And what a gorgeous sunny spring day it is. And today's video I'm going to be taking my epiphyllums that are underneath this table here that I have only given a very light watering to over the winter. So in this video I'm going to be giving them their first proper deep watering of the spring, and I'm also going to be putting a bit of tomato fertilizer in the water as well to help kick and encourage them buds, because epiphyllums are epiphytic cacti that are moisture loving, and they really do need a good drink to get them budding. They're usually one of the first of my cactus plants to burst into flower, and those of you who know epiphyllum cacti, they have the most incredible, stunning of cactus flowers of the cactus world. And most of my cacti in here, especially all of the desert cacti, the desert dwellers, I won't be watering them now until probably the middle of April. And the reason for that is, although the weather has been gorgeous here, it is still only March and early spring, and also the fact I'm going to be moving house in the next few weeks, so it's easier for me to transport them if they're dry. However, I may have to give a wee bit of water to some of the ones in the smaller pots like the red bootias and that. I just have to see how I go and how the temperatures are. I have watered my indoor cacti already because they're indoors and they are starting to come into bud and it's warmer temperatures. So I did a video the other day about that where I had to water them, or wanted to water them I should say. So it all depends on so many things, but I'm going to explain that a little bit more when I do eventually start to water my desert cacti, probably when we move house now. Epiphytic cacti, however, can't go too long without water. I have still been watering some of the ones in the pots here, and this is because they're in hanging baskets and they've been getting quite a lot of sun over the winter months, and I've been watering them to top them up. The ones under here, just been given a bit of a very light watering. As you can see, very dehydrated. And they're also starting as well very slightly to come into bud. I've seen it already on some of these epiphyllums. This is my Epiphyllum ackermani, and it is already starting to come into bud very slightly. The little felted areoles are starting to show signs of pink there. So they need to have a really good watering, and the tomato feed is going to really boost them up. But because they are totally bone dry now, and we've had some really gorgeous sunny spring weather at the moment, I'm going to be taking these out into the yard, and I'm going to be using what I call the dip and dunk method. Dip and dunk. That is, I'm going to be putting a bit of tomato feed into the water, and I'm going to be immersing these into a bucket of water. Because if I was to go ahead and give them a good watering now, the water is just going to come straight out and it's going to pour in the tray here, and it's going to create moisture and humidity here in the polytunnel, which I don't want because it's still early spring. So although the humidity is good for these, it's not good for the desert cacti. So I'm going to be giving them a good soaking and immerging, and I'm also, before I do that, I'm going to be pruning off some of the dead branches as well. Some of these might need a bit of a pruning, which is normal after the winter months. So I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to be giving them a good soak. I'm going to be sharing with this in the video. So then guys, that's what I'm going to be doing, and now I'm going to start taking these plants out into the yard. Go past the first one coming out here, and epiphyllums, although they're epiphytic cacti, they do prefer a little bit more shade, but they can take a bit of sun as well. I normally have these out in the yard during the spring and summer, but they do prefer a bit more shade. As you can see, this one here, very wrinkled, it really needs a good drink, and probably a bit of a pruning as well, just to tidy it up, such as this. I'm only going to be pruning off the dead parts of the leaves, because if I was to give this a good pruning now, which I can do, it's a time when they're starting to produce their buds, so I don't want to. It's best to prune them after they're finished flowering, sort of usually in the late spring. So that's that one here, and I've got these buckets here. This is what I use for making up my soil mixes and that, but it's going to be perfect to fill them up with water, put that tomato feed in, and then give them a good submerging in there so they bubble up, taking up all that water When they're thoroughly soaked, that's when I can put them back then into the polytunnel, because as I mentioned, it's so dry, this soil, water's going to come straight through. And yes, these are what I need to be doing quite a bit of repotting on again this spring and summer, of course once I've moved house. Here we go. That one's a big dead leaf, so I'll prune it right back here. Gives it a tidy up, and it's good to do this in preparation. This is all wrinkly, so I'm just going to cut this back like that. You can always, when you're pruning, you can propagate healthy cuttings, but when they're all dried and shrivelly like this, it's really not worth it. That's also spotted, so I'm going to cut that back, or it's come back anyway. So just tidies up the plant and neatens it up. By the way guys, I have done a complete pruning video on Epiphyllum and how to propagate them and everything, so I'll link all them videos up above if you want to know more information on how to propagate them and prune them back. Now, as I've mentioned quite a few times in my videos with my cacti, including my desert cacti and my succulents, I love to use tomato feed when I give them their fertilizer. And that's because tomato feed is high in potash and potassium, so it helps to encourage more chances of buds and blooms. And I use either maxi crop or I use Levington's Tomerite. Tomerite is a very sort of common, good quality tomato food. And what I do, I make sure I use it at half of the strength that they recommend for tomatoes. And that's because cacti don't need the high strength that tomatoes do. They're not fast growing plants, they're slow growing plants, even epiphyllums. So here, for example, tomato fertilizer, 20 millilitres for 4.5 litres, which is 1 gallon of water. I will use half that strength, so I would use just 10 millilitres for the same litres. So 10 millilitres for 4.5 litres, 1 gallon of water. I roughly use half, and that's for all my cacti and succulents, whatever variety. It really works, guys, I swear by it. And if you want a bit more information and watch a special video I've made on why I like to use tomato feed for cacti and succulents, do check out a video I've made on why I like to use tomato feed for my cacti and succulents, and I'll link that video up above. Just getting all the water ready before I mix the tomato feed in. So that's the first bucket all made up. I've got the tomato feed mixed in there. And now the first one I'm going to start with is my big Epiphyllum Cactus. And this is one that produces the most stunning of incredible blooms every single year. Sort of like a cerise pink, stunning flowers. And if you want to see how beautiful this Epiphyllum is when she blooms, do check above. There's a link to a video of my Epiphyllum Cactus, this one here, what she looks like when she is blooming. The blooms take your breath away, guys. And do go ahead and watch that video after this one. So then, here we go. I'm going to dip her in. And I've got these sort of in these little wicker baskets. They're not ideal, but I'm going to be repotting these obviously over the summer once we've moved. So dip her in. There we go. So see all them bubbles coming up. She's like, yes, I'm so happy to have some water. It's good when you see that bubbling, because she's going to get the soil then totally, thoroughly wetted. And this is very important with epiphyllums. The video I did the other day when I watered my indoor cacti for the first time, I just gave them their first watering, just a light watering, enough to moisten up the soil. Epiphyllums are different, as I mentioned. They're much more moisture loving. They grow in their natural habitats, hanging from the canopies of trees. And they love that moisture, high humidity of the rainforests. So totally different to desert cacti. So these can have a really thorough soaking. Absolutely lovely. And by the way, I've made a whole care video on how to care for Epiphyllum and epiphytic cactus. So all of them videos, as I mentioned, will be up above. Do go ahead and watch them if you want to know more. If you love cactus flowers, and you really love to see how beautiful these flowers are, then do go. And epiphyllums are lovely to add to a collection. They can be large growing, but they can be pruned back easy enough. They can be as compact or as big as you want. So there you go, look at that bubbles. Drink, 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 drink. So I'll hold it here now, probably for about 3 or 4 minutes until I know, and I can tell when I lift this up how heavy this is, and this is heavy already, that this Epiphyllum Cactus has had a really thorough water. So once the bubbles have stopped bubbling, then it's ready to lift out and then drain. So this is going to be pretty much done in a few minutes. So she's been fully immersed there for a few minutes. I'm going to lift her out. And that's because I want to let her drain before I put her back into the polytunnel, because I don't want water collecting on the black trays, as I say. I'm going to let her then to drain. It's always good as well to do it in the shade. So she's got a chance to have a good drain. You will not believe the difference. In a couple of weeks or so, she's going to fatten up all the leaves and then they burst into bud quite fast. So the next one I'm going to submerge here. Now the next one, my Epiphyllum Madeline. Again, she's going to love this lovely good water in here to fatten up and burst into bud. So again, the same thing again. And hopefully if you've got these plants, guys, this will give you a bit of an idea. They love this. These are cacti, these epiphytes that do love to be thoroughly soaked with their first proper watering of the year, unlike the desert cacti that do need to be eased gently with their first watering of the year. Again, I'll be holding this for a few minutes and then taking it out once it's stopped bubbling. Look at that, guys. Bubble, bubble, hubble trouble. Ha! So as I say, I dip and dop them until the bubbling stops, which can be anything from 3 to 5 minutes. The root ball, once it stops bubbling, the root ball is thoroughly soaked, and that's when I'm able to lift it out. And so needed a really good deep watering. And the last one I'm doing now is my large Epiphyllum Ackermanni that I've had for many years. Always produces gorgeous red, bright red, stunning flowers. And look at that, it's in a clay pot, so it really does need a good soaking. And this is one that does really burst into bloom within a couple of weeks or so after giving its first watering of the winter. And it's already starting to show, I don't know whether you're going to see on the camera, very beginnings of little red buds already all along the edges there. So this is one of my most amazing bloomers. So that's all the epiphyllums pruned and thoroughly watered and fed, all ready for the flowering season, which I'm pretty sure will be in a few weeks' time. Beautiful blooms, so stay tuned. Going to be very interesting, as I say, because we're moving house. So the biggest dilemma is obviously I don't want any buds to fall off, but we're probably going to have to put them straight into the garden anyway when we move, because we may have to wait a month or two before we can get the new greenhouse. So it's going to be very interesting. But as I say, watch this space. If you haven't done already, do subscribe and click the notification bell. Do give this video a like. Leave a comment in the comments down below, even a heart or a smiley face, because every comment really helps the algorithm. Check my website out for lots of growing tips on there, desertplantsofavalon.com. And I want to wish you all a fantastic blooming cactus season ahead.